What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your brewmaster-in-chief. And tonight in the BrewLab, I'm coming at you with another episode of Spoiler Talk. And yeah, it looks like we got a bunch of new spoilers today. I've done my best, as usual, to stay away from social media, Twitter and Facebook and things, so that I can give you guys a real fresh first impression on these cards. And there's been quite a few of them, so it's about time we just dive right into it, shall we? It looks like we got a bunch of the new arts for the lands, and I've heard some mutterings and mumblings on Reddit and things that these don't really look like mountains to me. That doesn't look like a forest to me. Where's the island in this thing? I mean, the set is based in a city. How are they supposed to make an island? Just look at the gigantic mana symbol and, read what it says on the card. And, of course, the color shading and everything. I think they're fantastic. I do, to be honest, prefer the Neon Dynasty art for the lands. Some of them are just wow. But these are also really, really nice. I must tell you, I'm about as hyped for this set as can be. Like the cards that I've seen so far are just incredible. The power level is just creeping nicely up. It's a kind of typical second set of the year situation. The card pool is growing. There's going to be so much to brew. I'm getting my brewing juices are starting to flow, and I'm so excited. But yeah, feast your eyes on these beauties. Looks like these will be the ones that we'll be getting in Arena, for free, whenever you craft your first deck, the day that New Capenna drops. These will be the lands that get defaulted into the deck, and I think they're pretty freaking special. But yeah, that's up to you, personal opinion, that sort of thing. But let's dive right into some spoilers. It looks like a lot of the stuff today was in Asia, so we're going to have to be alt-tabbing into the, opening new tabs into these to actually figure out what it is that they do. First one seems to have some guy having a look at a corpse here in a morgue. Ew. And it's the Maestros colors. What I've done is I've opened up this little tab. They released this article on April 7th. It just has all the mechanics, just so that I'm still kind of wrapping my head around all of these things, and I didn't want to make any mistakes. So now I have a little bit of an article to refer to when I get stumped during tonight's spoiler talk episode. So okay, there we go. So it is a corpse examiner in the Maestros colors, or Grixis, blue, black, and red. Creature, vampire, rogue. What I like so far, just on a quick tangent, is how many new vampires we're getting. For those of you who don't know exactly, rotation is coming in September, and the sets that will remain in standard post-rotation will be everything from Midnight Hunt onwards. So vampires and werewolves and all of that stuff will be in standard until next year, September. And so I like how Wizards does this. They give, a little bit extra, cross-set interaction and, longer-lasting gameplay with some of their older sets by providing new cards that fit potential tribes and things from the older set. So it looks like we're getting a lot of vampires in Streets of New Capenna, and that's gonna create a whole bunch of new things that we can do by bringing in some of the vampires from Crimson Bow and Midnight Hunt and mixing them with the vampires from Streets of New Capenna. I love to do that sort of stuff. The first couple of weeks of when a new set drops, like 90% of the cards in the new brews that everybody's putting up on their channels and playing is like going to be all just new cards from Streets of New Capenna. But then slowly but surely, people start to get bored of the new, not bored, but we've tried all the cool new stuff. Okay, now how do we bring some of these cards and mix them in with the older sets and make new brews that way. So yeah, vampires looks like it's getting a lot of support in this set. When the Corpse Examiner enters the battlefield, exile up to one target creature card from your graveyard. If you put a card into exile this way, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So it does appear as though the Maestros, who do have this casualty mechanic, which basically requires you to sacrifice something, the power, you know, the additional cost to cast a spell. If you want, you pay its casualty cost. You need to sacrifice a creature that has a specific power, or is it toughness? Let me read here. With power. So yeah, the power is what you're looking after when you know what you're looking at when you cast it for its casualty cost. So you'll need to be sacrificing, in the case of this little chat, something that has power 1 or less. So it does appear as though we're going to be needing lots of like little sacrificial fodder, and there's going to be a lot of like graveyard shenanigans in the Maestros colors, and that's pretty cool if you ask me. So where were we? Yeah, this is just a nice way of filtering, you know, the top of your library. It's quite a few cards, top 3 cards, and then you put, you know, the best one that you need into your hand, perhaps your reanimation spell. I hope we get a nice new one. I'm sick of people using the one that has to do with elves and stuff to reanimate, because there's not really a better one. It's been a while since we've had like a nice sort of cheaply costed good reanimation spell. I'm hoping that we get one in the set, because it does look like the Maestros are going to be wanting to do that a lot. And then, you know, you put the rest into your graveyards to be reanimated. Potentially your Xander, 7 mana. I don't think people are going to be hard casting that card very often. So yeah, Corpse Examiner might be kind of helping us do that. Again, also the Signpost uncommon for this crime family by the looks of it. Next up, we got the Maestros Theater. When the Maestro... Oh, okay, so it's a land. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it. When you do, search your library for a basic island or swamp or mountain. Put it into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle and you gain 1 life. Hey, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. For limited, that's going to be great in limited. I don't know if it'll see much play in standard, but pretty sweet little card. Once only extraordinary performers are invited to grace the grandest stage in New Capenna. Like, initially was definitely like, oh, cabaretti, and I still am, but slowly but surely, like, I'm getting really interested in what the Maestros have got going on, and definitely the Riveteers look pretty freaking amazing. But next up, we got another, ooh, I don't think that's Japanese, it might be Korean or something. Unlicensed Dispatch. Okay, another Maestros card with casualty 3. 3 colorless, 2 black. Sorcery, uncommon. Casualty 3, so you need to sacrifice a creature that has power 3 or less to copy the spell, and if you do, you get to choose new targets for the copy. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and shuffle. Okay, so it's a 5 mana tutor that if you sacrifice a power with creature with power 3 or less, you can tutor 2 cards. That seems pretty freaking nice. It's a little bit maybe overpriced, but you know, still, there's a trend in Magic, you know, culture, or you know, on Reddit and Twitter and things, where people are, you know, when you say like 5 mana tutor, not playable, but if you can tutor 2 cards by sacrificing a creature and perhaps getting some value out of sacrificing that creature, then maybe that actually becomes a pretty good card. Alright, tutor 2, not bad. Unlicensed Dispatch. On to the next one. Okay, this is definitely Japanese. I'm fairly certain that that's Japanese. Dig Up the Body. I love the flavor on this set so far. So again, Casualty. Casualty 1. So if you sacrifice a creature with power 1 or less, you get to copy the spell. And you mill 2, then return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. There we go. That could be one. It's not really a reanimator spell, but that's, you know, going in the right direction. Nice little instant. Nice little, you know, common. Next up, we got what are the names of these things? These enchantments. The Ascendancies. There's going to be one in every color. I touched upon the Brokers one yesterday that puts a +1/+1 counter on every creature and planeswalker, and a loyalty counter on every planeswalker that you have every turn. I think it's at the beginning of your end step, or is it at the upkeep? I can't remember. This is the Maestros one. This one I actually did, I couldn't help but see it on Facebook today. It was one of the cards that, of the spoilers that was spoiled for me ahead of time before I could record this video, and it's causing an uproar. It's pretty busted. So, Maestro's colors, blue, black, red, enchantment, and then once during each of your turns, you may, each of your turns, I mean, that's only, okay, I mean, that's every turn, right? I guess that's probably wording that's either badly translated from this Portuguese here, or it's maybe like talking to the people that play Commander a little bit. But you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a creature in addition to paying its other costs. If a spell would cost this way, put it into your graveyard, and then we put it into your graveyard, exile it instead. So getting to essentially, as long as you have sacrifice fodder, recast every single spell that you've cast again. It's like a weird kind of giving me some Lear vibes. Giving everything that you have flashback, as long as you have sack fodder. I can already imagine something like, I don't know. What's the Sedgemoor Witch? Cast a spell. It makes a little pest token. The spell ends up in your graveyard. Then, at some point during your next turn, you can recast that spell and just sacrifice the pest token. And then you'd make another one from the Magecraft. What else? I mean, of course, there's plenty of things that you could be wanting to sacrifice. Your Eye Twitches, your Shambling Gas, for example, or and who knows what else we're gonna get that's gonna be good for this type of thing. But this is pretty freaking busted. Yeah, this is wrong. Dominio. Anyway, really strong card. Cannot wait to try it out. This is the Maestros Ascendancy. We're going to be getting a full cycle of these. So we've seen 2 so far. On to the next one. Maestros Diabolist. Vampire Warrior. Here we go with the vampires. This time, it's a Death Touch Hasty Boy. Whenever it attacks, if you don't control a devil token, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red devil creature token. With this creature dies, deal 1 damage to any target. Interesting card. Really a little bit understated, as a 1/4, but the fact that it makes the devil, it's effectively sort of like a 2/4. So the opponent might be incentivized to block the little devil because he doesn't want to block the death touchy guy, and then when the devil dies, you still get him for 1 damage. And you might have some devil synergies going on here with the planeswalker that was spoiled yesterday, Ob Nixilis. There's some stuff to do with devils. It looks like devils are going to be a lot more prevalent, and that makes me quite happy because I'm going to definitely be trying a devil tribal deck. I did mention this yesterday. There's that planeswalker that saw almost no play, Zariel, the Archduke of Avernus, that makes devil tokens and gives everybody haste and stuff like that. Maybe it's finally going to find a little bit of time to have some spotlight shone on it. Next up, we've got Evelyn the Covetous. I believe this is the card that Marrow was referring to when, like, cost that we've never had before or whatever. This is a weird mana thing here going on. I mean, you can either cast this for 2 colorless and 3 black, or like 2 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red, or just 2 colorless and Maestro colors. Very versatile, which means you could essentially play this in a mono black deck or what have you. Vampire Rogue with Flash. That's nice. When Evelyn the Covetous or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Then once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it, if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, and you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast it. every time you play a vampire, is it? No, not even play. It's when one enters the battlefield. So, ooh, you'll be, churning through both of our libraries, the opponent's and your own. And then you get to play those cards. That's a really, really nice card. Maybe a tiny bit expensive at 5 mana, but still, I think that's actually pretty freaking strong. Gonna have to put that in your sort of yoink decks with, there's plenty of cards that allow you to play the opponent's cards. We even had one in the mono red deck a few days ago in the Curse of Hospitality. It's always fun, so gonna have to keep our eyes on Evelyn the Covetous. Next up, we got Arcane Bombardment. This is a mad enchantment. It's definitely, not definitely, I mean, who knows? We might get something that allows us to cheat it out sooner or what have you. Then we'll definitely give it a try in Standard, but it definitely looks like it's one of the cards more geared towards Commander. And I say that because it says each turn. So it could be, I mean, of course, that could mean just during your opponent's turn, during your turn, in a best of, in a one-on-one game. But I think in Commander, this is going to shine because there's going to be, potentially plenty of turns going around the table, and this thing will happen every time you cast an instant or sorcery spell. But you basically, whenever you cast that instant or sorcery, you exile it. No, sorry. Whenever you, okay, so it'll end up in your graveyard. Then the next time you cast an instant or sorcery spell, and you have Arcane Bombardment on the battlefield, you exile one of those instant or sorceries that are in your graveyard at random. Then you copy each card exiled with Arcane Bombardment. What? You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana cost. What? I mean, they had to make this a little bit prohibitively costed for Standard, otherwise this would be completely busted. I don't think it's going to see any, like, super, competitive play or anything like that, but I'm definitely going to have some fun, janky moments with it. I hope you're understanding this correctly. Like, you could have something as stupid as, I don't know, an extra turn card, like in Historic, like Time Warp or whatever, or you could have, in Alchemy, you could have Alrund's Epiphany. That's just a stupid example, of course, very hard to set up, but basically every time that you would then cast an instant or sorcery, you would get to copy the Alrund's Epiphany and every other card that you've exiled with Arcane Bombardment for free without paying the mana costs every single turn. You can just take infinite number of turns. I'm sure someone's going to try that on day one. So yeah, Arcane Bombardment. Crazy enchantment. Next up, we've got the Maestros Initiate. 3 mana, 3/1, common, human citizen. Exile Maestros Initiate from your graveyard, draw 2 cards, and discard a card. Okay, so really expensive, but one of these payoffs for, like, like we saw in this card over here, where you're like putting stuff into your graveyard. Now it's in your graveyard, you pay 5, and you can draw 2 cards and discard a card. Too expensive to see any Standard play, but cool idea. Next up, what a name of a card, the Professional Facebreaker, with some knuckle dusters. 3 mana, 2/3. Guys, so far mono red is looking crazy. I'm been talking about this over the last couple of days, how Wizards sort of like rotates, what certain decks and colors do a little bit. So now, like, mono white, who no one would have thought a year ago when, we were being ember cleaved into oblivion and bone crusher gianted all the time, would be the de facto best aggro deck in the format. And, slowly but surely they print new cards, then rotation hits, and a new deck sort of takes that position. And I was hoping that it might be, mono black aggro next or something else, but it does appear as though mono red is getting some crazy new cards, and might be a force to be reckoned with once everybody gets tired of trying all the 3 color combinations and starts trying to figure out how to make, the usual suspects work. Mono red aggro RDW might be back. Because it's already gotten a huge boost from Neon Dynasty. But this 3 mana 2/3 with Menace is nuts. This is going to work with gold spans and all that sort of stuff. Whenever one or more creatures you control, so it only happens, once per turn of one of your creatures, but still it deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token. So your gold span will be attacking, creating a treasure token, getting in for damage, creating another treasure token, as long as Professional Facebreaker is on the battlefield. What? And then you get to sacrifice a treasure and exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. This you can do at instant speed. There's no tapping, so you can do it during the opponent's turn. Having a bunch of treasures with your gold span, for example. And this guy in play means that you can get a lot of card advantage, and that is freaking fantastic. It's going to give those, Goldspan Dragon players, even in a more traditional Izzet shell, an additional thing to do when you think you've finally gotten them. You target their Goldspan, or you're trying to get in for the win, and they've got just everything tapped out, but 4 treasures left open. And they'll be able to do a bunch more busted stuff than they already can. So keep your eyes peeled on Professional Facebreaker. I wouldn't be surprised if this is highly played and competitive. Next up, we got Make Disappear. This is a good one, and I'm surprised it's a common. This is another one of the ones that I did see on Facebook today. So Casualty 1, so you only need to sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. Okay, so it's not 1 or less, it's 1 or greater. I beg your pardon for saying that all those times before. When you do, copy the spell. So counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. So as long as you sacrifice, let's just say he's casting something and he's got the 2 mana to spend, but he doesn't have 3 or 4 mana to spend. So you counter it, and then you sacrifice the creature, you pay it for a casualty cost, you copy the spell, and you counter the same thing again. So now the opponent has to pay 4 instead of 2. Boop! That's quite nice at 2 mana, I must say. Because, the deck that you'll be playing this in will always have something to pay the casualty cost. And so you'll be able to basically force the opponent to pay 4 for 2 mana counterspell. That's going to be a huge pain in the ass, I think. I'm, again, surprised it's common. Next up, we got this hideaway mechanic on an enchantment again. Yesterday it was also on an enchantment. One that I was not too hyped on because it's blue and very expensive, but it's actually probably pretty freaking good. Today it's a green one. Fight Rigging. These 2 Riveteers here smashing each other to pieces. Hideaway 5. So Hideaway, boop. Riveteers, where are the Riveteers? Here we go. Hideaway has received a small update since it last appeared. Hideaway is an enter the battlefield triggered ability. When a creature with Hideaway N enters the battlefield, look at the top N card of your library, exile one of them face down. So it means you look at that many cards from the top of your library, and so in this case would be looking at the top 5 cards of your library and exiling the one that you choose face down. And then when a certain thing happens, you'll be able to play that card without paying its mana cost. In this case, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control. Really, really cool. Really, really, really cool. Kind of, though, I don't know if Sparring Regiment is, would you rather learn or would you rather hide away? Who knows? But also the Sparring Regiment gives vigilance or pseudo-vigilance. But this is a kind of similar price. That's why I made that connection. Well, not similar, the exact same price. It's just in green and not in white. So then at some point, if you keep putting those +1/+1 counters on things, when you control a creature with power 7 or greater, boop, then you can pick that card that you've hidden away and play it without paying its mana cost. I think that's pretty damn good, and especially in your creature decks. Mono green is gonna like this, I think. Mono green is definitely gonna like this. Instead of or alongside your ranger class. White Rigging. Keep your eyes peeled. Next up, we got Cormella, the Glamorous Thief. Nice art. So 1 colorless and Maestros. colors for another vampire rogue, legendary. Wow, that's like a lot of legendary vampires. Nice. That's good for Olivia, obviously. Where, you know, the deck is trying to reanimate stuff, the Maestros. I think Olivia is going to be finally good. Or, you know, better than she was already. 4 mana, 2/4 with haste. Which means you can do this the turn it comes into play. You pay 1 colorless, tap it to add Maestro colors. And then you can only spend this mana to cast an instant or sorcery spell. I think that's really, really, really strong. When she dies, you return up to 1 target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Wow. Really good card for an uncommon. That is really, really nice. I wouldn't be surprised if this sees a lot of play. Next up, we got Security Rocks. Epic art. This is in Gruul colors. Red and green, but probably looking to be a a Riveteer's card. Rhino Warrior. 5/4. You may pay 1 green and 1 red rather than pay the spell's cost. Spend only mana produced by treasures to cast it this way. I think that's going to be really, really cool. A 2 mana 5/4. Unlucky assassins find out why he's called Brick Wall. Alright, and we've arrived at the final card for tonight's spoilers. Not that many. Let's do a one last refresh. I think from now on it's going to be sort of similar to how it's been in every other spoiler season. Because of my time zone, not everything will have been spoiled by the time I hit stop record on my spoiler talk episodes. So we'll just check in again, you know, every day when I do the next episode and see if anything came out while I was asleep. But we've got Arbitro Omnivedente. So this is the Omni... I can translate this, my Italian... No, this is a... Roba dos cartas. Yeah, this is a Spanish. Arbitro is usually like a referee. The Arbiter, okay. Or the all-seeing Arbiter. Same thing. Kinda. Yeah, actually, same exact thing. 4 colorless, 2 blue. For a avatar with flying, that's a 5/4. Whenever all-seeing Arbiter enters the battlefield, this is mythic, or attacks, you draw 2 cards and discard a card. Whenever you discard a card, target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-0 until your next turn, where X is the number of different mana values between cards in your graveyard. Very pricey, but that's a really nice effect. Yeah, exactly. That's what Connor, you nailed it. I think you nailed it. Weird that it's mythic. Meh. Bit too expensive. Unless maybe you're cheating it into play somehow. It's got a nice ETB trigger. And, you know, a nice attack trigger. It just dies to removal. Meh. I don't know. Alright, let's do one last little refresh. See if anything was spoiled while I've been talking. Ah! We got a new one! Yes! The Grizzly Sigil. Oh, casualties. So it looks like we've got a lot of Maestro cards today. Grizzly Sigil. 1 black sorcery. Uncommon. Casualty 1. So you need to sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. Choose target creature or planeswalker. If it was dealt non-combat damage this turn, Grizzly Sigil deals 3 damage to it and you gain 3 life. Otherwise, Grizzly Sigil deals 1 damage to it and you gain 1 life. Okay, so some finally, like, good Planeswalker hate, and it's not the first one. We got one yesterday as well, and I think it's going to be necessary, because, like, Ob Nixilis is super overpowered. These new Planeswalkers look super overpowered, and, you know, we've got some really annoying strong ones in the format right now already. Where was it? Here, Strangle. For 1 mana, 3 damage to target creature or Planeswalker. This also, 1 mana. Does things to planeswalkers. I kind of like that because I've been playtesting for the tournament I'm entering on Sunday, the DGen Open, or you know that I've already entered and I still have not submitted my deck list for. And in testing, the number of Orzhov walkers, Esper walkers, there's so many planeswalker decks, control decks, and I think finally we're going to get a little bit more tools to deal with them. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's episode of Spoiler Talk. Hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you all later for some fresh brews. And until then, this is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.